Hare Krishna. Thank you for being here. Those of you who are brave enough to last right after breakfast. It's usually not easy to be in a class after breakfast or after any meal. So if you feel like you need a little break, you're falling asleep, there are couches at the back there. You can certainly make use of them. No judgment from my side. I completely am fine with that. So I wanted to just say I feel very honored to be with all of you. I've never been to Phoenix Temple before. This is my first time being here at the Phoenix Temple. It's a very lovely and warm place, actually. I find it just a small, it's a smaller scale temple than what I'm used to back in Chicago. So my heart is usually in smaller settings, and I like these kind of smaller settings. I first started my Krishna conscious journey in St. Louis, and we had a very small temple, half the size of this place. So it's been an honor, and getting to know some of you. I'm staying with Kevala Bhakti Prabhu, which is very sweet, and his good wife, Anugraha Mataji. Even though she's not, claims to be not an expert in chapati making, she made some of the best chapatis I've had. And just very warm, hospitable people, so thank you for hosting us. And I've known Prema Datri Mataji for 20 years now, or so. We used to go to yatras together. I remember when she was slightly younger than what she is today. And I had a little bit of hair, maybe. And it's just so energetic. I know it's not easy to lead a temple. There's so much, no one's perfect. And there's so much challenge, so many challenges to lead a volunteer-based organization that she's done it for so many years without necessarily, one of those thankless tasks, right? I'm quite familiar. It's not easy to lead a temple. So the fact that she's been doing it for many years, I really, really appreciate and admire that about her. And her husband, Radha Prabhu. If you didn't know, we both have roots in Africa. She's from Kenya and I grew up in Nigeria. So we connect on that platform as well. And then I will say that that I'm sharing about Japa feels a little dissonant with reality, because as a disqualified, rotten householder, what do we know about Japa or the process of bhakti? But at the same time, where somehow we came in the purview of the glance of amazing devotees, especially our spiritual master, who very kindly has lifted us from mud, literally, to dust us off and give us a little bit of training. Some of you, do you know how the Japa retreat started? Anyone know how these started? Back in 2006, Maharaj, Rampada Swami, had attended a Japa retreat with his godbrothers in Ojai, California. It was up in the mountains. They had a great time. And my observation of how Sri Rampada Swami, his MO, if you will, his modus operandi, is that he'll, if something is very valuable and meaningful, he immediately makes it available to those he cares for. Not just his disciple, but those he cares for. And after 2006, we had the first Festival of the Holy Name in 2007 in the Chicagoland area. That was the first time, and we're close to 19 years of Festival of the Holy Name. 2008 was the first Japa retreat in Gita Nagari. It was called Nama Amrita Japa retreat. 2008, 2009, 2010, 2012, there were 4 Japa retreats, and all 4 of them were 64 round days. Now it's standard, but that was huge, okay, back in the day, because Festival of Holy Name was 32 rounds. So, shoo. But the Japa retreats in Gitanagari were 64 rounds. I remember still those experiences were just amazing. And Festival of Holy Name stayed 32 rounds until last year. Then he, picked up the pace, went on to 5th gear. So 64 rounds is Festival of Holy Names as well. And then some years prior, Maharaj started to do Japa retreats, not just the Festival of Holy Name, Japa retreats everywhere. New Jersey, here in Phoenix, Houston, etc. So this month, Phoenix, next week is Houston, the week after that is New Jersey, the week after that is Vyas Puja, and the week after that is Portland. Just back to back to back Japa retreats. So since 2006, we've been having, of course prior to that there was also training in Japa, but there's been this focus and repeated training and training and training and training and training. And so I think something goes in a little bit after, even though as thick-headed as we may be, as I may be, something goes in. So I feel very grateful that Maharaj has offered me the opportunity to speak about Japa, because I know that we'll get benefited, for sure. Just meditating on the topic, for those who prepare and present, probably they get the most benefit, right? Because you think about it the most. So, this topic, the Japa journey map, I only have one slide, by the way. Okay, for 2 classes, just one slide. So if you like beautiful pictures and fancy scenes, this is not the session for you. You can ask for your money back and head out if you like. But this is only a 1-slide class. I'm a visual person, and this was born from my maybe 10th time studying this book, the Japa book. I'd like to see a show of hands. How many of you have this book or have read this book? Okay, 2. In my meager estimation, this is probably one of the best, if not the best book on chanting the holy name. Last year I studied it for maybe the 10th time, and this time I took really assiduous notes. And I didn't study with anyone. Usually I would read it with others. This last year I studied it just by myself and took notes. And as I was studying it, it sort of surfaced for me, because I'm a visual person, I think visually, it surfaced for me that there's a map encoded in this book of what the journey of Japa looks like. And so that's what we're going to be presenting. Within this book, Burijan Prabhu, who's an amazing, amazing teacher, and by the way, who also has been an instrumental person in Rampada Swami Maharaj's life as well, in providing him his first Krishna conscious literature, Back to Godhead magazine and so forth. Burijan Prabhu's writing is so filled with realization, and it really strikes your heart in a very powerful way. So I've requested Mother Prema Datta if she could purchase some books for the audience to have. So if you would like to get a copy, highly recommend it. I also have a link at the end, a QR code where you can get it from Amazon as well. Within this book is also referenced, or it's based on the teachings of Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Bhajan Rahasya. So, learning about that, I went and I, studied Bhajan Rahasya as well in detail and took notes and all this kind of. Bhajan Rahasya is pretty high, it's pretty deep. It's considered the sequel to Harinam Chintamani. Some of you may have heard that book, Harinam Chintamani by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So this is a sequel, Bhajan Rahasya. Rahasya means secrets. Bhajan means devotional service. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur reveals in that book his way of practicing chanting, like his way of dealing with devotional practice. What does he do? It's very sweet, actually. And then the other book that this book references is Madhurya Kadambini, which is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's description of the stages of bhakti. And of course it references Bhakti Sandarbha by Jiva Goswami, etc. So it's packed with scriptural references to understand the Japa journey. So what is the purpose of this? Like, why are we even doing this? My thought behind presenting the Japa journey map is to understand where we are in the whole journey of our practice of Japa, to recognize where we are, to recognize what has helped us in the past, and then to also know what are the next steps to expect in the future. Like GPS map, to know that there's going to be construction in the road ahead, and so I need to be careful, etc. So to have that clear idea, and to also help us to know what the next step to take, that's why I put this together. It's going to be really, really important to have in our Japa journey. Maharaj mentioned it yesterday and today. It's so important to have a vibrant inner life. Meaning, one devotee was asking this morning, if we just chant dutifully, won't that make us chant with our heart at some point? So Maharaj said, maybe. It is just dutifully chanting or doing an external activity can only get us so far. It gets a bias credits and those kind of things. But to actually get the benefit of this most mysterious practice of japa, which is considered to be the best way to make spiritual progress in this age. Doesn't matter what spiritual tradition you are, chanting the holy name is the most powerful. To enter into that mystery, it requires a vibrant inner life and living, being very clear as best as we can about what's going on for us inside. So we're going to spend some time looking at that. How many of you here are householders? Married? How many will get married at some point? Somebody is scared to raise a hand. Anyone know what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says is the two most important thing for householders? Two most important instructions for householders. Any guesses? Chanting and deity service, and? Those two. So there's one time Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Puri, so he had moved to Jagannath Puri when he was 24 years old. And during that time, the devotees from Bengal had come to visit him. And it's such a sweet time to experience the Rath Yatra and the joyous festival of dancing with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during the Rath Yatra. They spent 4 entire months with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It was an intense time of purification and affection between the devotees and Mahaprabhu. But then the 4 months were over, which means they have to go back. And then, because of the culture they had, and the affection they had for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they approached him before they left, and each person would receive from Mahaprabhu special instructions what to do in their life. And just in general, just to receive some indication from him, what would please him. So Satyaraj Khan came in front, he is a householder, he came to Mahaprabhu and he said, please, we are leaving, please give us an instruction. Or he specifically asked a question, he said, I'm a fallen householder, what is the most important thing for me? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said two things. He said, Krishna Naam, Sankirtan was the first one. And the second thing he said was Vaishnava Seva. The two most important things for householders are chanting the holy name and serving the Vaishnavas. So, in my attempt to serve the Vaishnavas, we'll talk about chanting the holy name. In Bhajan Rahasya, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Sankirtan is the eternal activity of the jiva. All other religious activities are meant to help one attain perfection in chanting. Everything that we do, we take care of our families, we serve the deities, we read the Bhagavatam, we may give classes, we might go to work, we might be wishing not to go to work. Whatever our situation may be, whatever we do is meant to deepen and strengthen this point about perfecting our chanting. Our whole life is meant to surround around that. Because what's the use of anything else? Everything has a expiration date to it. The only thing that doesn't have an expiration date to it is our relationship with God. And that's why he says it's the eternal activity of the soul. Okay, that sounds interesting, that sounds wonderful and very high up there. Here we are. We struggle just to get our 16 rounds done, right? How many of us are chanting 16 rounds every day? Or close to it? So most of us have this practice of chanting. And it's a struggle. Would you be willing to reveal if it's a struggle to you? I can say it's a struggle for me. How many of you feel like Japa is a struggle? Sometimes? Yeah. Okay. And as we make progress on this Japa journey map, or don't make progress on this Japa journey map, it's a journey. What does a journey mean? Let me read for you a definition of journey, and I'd like you to think about it from the perspective of your relationship with Japa, the chanting the holy name. The journey through life is filled with wonder, challenges, broken hearts, extreme highs, extreme lows, celebrations, special moments, and memories that define our experience as a human. In these events, planned or unexpected, that impact our travels and it defines our purpose. Many of us have continued chanting Japa because we've had some of those extreme highs. We've had those times where maybe, we felt, Krishna is real. Through the chanting. And it keeps us going, even though for months and maybe years we haven't experienced anything like that. In the Bhagavatam, Narad Muni goes through this experience where his mother died. When a parent dies, it's not easy. His mother died when he was 5 years old. Okay, it's really not easy. The Bhagavatam says the first reaction he had was one of gratitude. And then he left the ashram that his mother was taking care of and went up to the north, to the Himalayas. And in the Himalayas he started to meditate. And in his deep, concentrated meditation he witnessed the Supreme. He felt the presence of the Supreme. And he's like, where's it gone? And Krishna told him, as a voice in the sky, I gave you a little taste to keep going. And then he said, you won't see me the rest of this life, but you keep going. So remember last night we talked about patience? Are we ready to keep going? So we may have had these experiences, this little flare of, wow, Krishna is real. The holy name is something very sweet, something very special. And that experience can give us strength to keep going. Now the map that I'm going to show is only going to cover up to the stage of Nishtha. There are 9 stages of bhakti, and so we'll only cover the first 5. In my estimation, if one can come to the stage of Nishtha, that's like pretty good. Nishtha means steadiness. Nishtha means that point in your life where you are steady in your bhakti and you're steady in your qualities that you exhibit. And we'll talk about that some more. Nishtha is reaching the summit of the hill, after which is downhill. When we practice Krishna consciousness, it's like climbing up a hill, dealing with all our stuff that's inside. And then when we come to the summit, that's like the Nishtha. And when you have to go down, it's pretty easy. Have any of you gone up Tirupati, climbed up Tirupati? Yeah, you've climbed up Tirupati. That temple is 4 hours of climbing up and only about 2.5 hours of going down, because going down is usually easier. Like that, our practice of Krishna consciousness can feel like climbing up. When you get to Nishtha, and after that you move from Nishtha to Ruchi to Asakti to Bhava and Prema, it's like going down. It's a little more smooth, easy. So we'll only come up to Nishtha. Now there may be some persons in this room that are at Nishtha or past Nishtha, so I apologize if it's not relevant for you, but for the rest of us, maybe we'll just go through it. Something that I'd like to also make very clear for us is that notice that the journey here is a winding, curving road. I know when I started Krishna consciousness, I thought of progress in spiritual life as a straight line, right? Just like you do this, you do that, you do the other thing, and you get the result. You put your coins in the vending machine, hit the button, and out comes your result. Spiritual life is not like that. Spiritual life is a meandering journey of faith, of love, and of humility. Some of us are married. Think about relationship with your spouse. Was it a straight line? Anything but a straight line, right? Sometimes it felt like you're going backwards. I like to use the analogy of a river. Everyone's journey is like the flow of a river. We're all trying to get to Krishna at some point, just like the river is trying to get to the sea. In fact, Queen Kunti says that to Krishna, Gange Vogamudanvati, that like the Ganges goes to the sea, let my mind flow to you. So we got the opportunity to be at Haridwar last year and Rishikesh and observe the Ganges. I really appreciated watching how the Ganges flowed. And of course, we've been to Mayapur too. You see how the Ganges is flowing into the Bay of Bengal, into the sea there. And interestingly enough, you'll see that the river Ganges at some points in Rishikesh is moving backwards. It's actually moving backwards. It may seem like life is moving backwards. Like I'm not making progress. No, forget making progress. I'm going backwards. Each person's spiritual life is like a special river that's going to the sea. No river is the same. Every river has its own set of obstacles at different points, and all different shapes of obstacles, different sizes, different looks of the obstacles, isn't it? So each of our lives in the spiritual trajectory is going to have that uniqueness to it before it gets to the sea. And like I said, sometimes it feels like you're going backwards. So it's this meandering journey of love, faith, and humility. Sometimes rivers dry up before they get to the sea. We'll talk about that too. What does that mean? What does that look like? Why does that happen? So, we'll start our journey at the stage of Adav Shraddha, which I don't have here, but it's the stage just before Sadhu Sangha. What is Adav Shraddha? Adav means beginning. Shraddha means faith. Sometimes it's translated as preliminary faith. It's that seed of faith. It's that understanding that, you know what, there's something beyond all of this. I remember when I was a kid, I was sharing this story with other devotees too, that I might have been 10, 12 years old, thinking about this topic, about God. And I looked myself in the mirror, stared myself in the eye, like, who are you? And I asked myself the question, are you God? And I made the conclusion, logical conclusion, that I'm not. Because if I was God, I would know it. I wouldn't have to ask the question. Right? So it's just logical. so I didn't. But there was a sense that there's something higher, there's something deeper. It's Adav Shraddha. Where does that come from? Bhaktivinoda Thakur analyzes that to say that we get this primary faith that there's something beyond from Agyata Sukriti, meaning that benefit of unknowing devotional service. We meet someone on the street and we help them out. And they happen to be a devotee. You get Agyata Sukriti. You get this unknowing benefit that leads to Adav Shraddha, which is this primary faith. There must be something higher. Jiva Goswami explains that this Adav Shraddha in its pure form, because there's a mixed form too. The pure form of Adav Shraddha is that where you have faith in scriptural teachings. Maybe not scripture yet. You may don't even know what the Bhagavad Gita is or Bhagavatam. But you have the sense that the teachings of scripture, God is all powerful, knowing, all-knowing, omnipotent, everywhere, and that there's God in everyone's heart, and that I am a part and parcel of God. This basic scriptural teachings, that faith in those scriptural teachings, Jiva Goswami explains is known as Adav Shraddha. There's another kind of Shraddha. What I just explained is known as Shastriya Shraddha. There's another kind of Shraddha known as Loka Shraddha, or Laukika Shraddha, or Loka Parampara Shraddha. It is that kind of faith which is really weak. And it's faith that's based on what society is doing around me. And pushed by the need to be accepted by society around me, I might do something. Sometimes you might see that couples take up Krishna consciousness. One of the two are really very intent and very sincere, and they have a strong faith in the scriptures. The other may take up because the spouse has taken it up. Or maybe because the community that they want to belong to are all chanting Hare Krishna, and so they just are pushed by that social pressures, peer pressures or social pressures. That's known as Loka Parampara Shraddha, or the Laukika Shraddha. Laukiki Shraddha. Loka means people. You get influenced very easily by people. And one can know that it's Laukika Shraddha if as you're practicing Krishna consciousness and some difficulty hits. And when that difficulty hits you, especially some relationship problems, we see often that in temple communities there are relationship problems. Maybe not in Phoenix, maybe that doesn't happen at all. But sometimes when there's relationship problems, someone with Laukika Shraddha and they have a practice based on that pliable faith, they stop chanting. I stopped chanting because my temple president spoke rudely to me. So that's a symptom. I've seen it happen, by the way. So now we enter into the next stage. So with that little seed of faith, one comes into the association of devotees, which is known as Sadhu Sangha. Sadhu Sangha is it's not just hanging out with people who practice spirituality. Hanging out is not bad, but it's not the essence of Sadhu Sangha. What is Sadhu Sangha? It's not having prasadam and talking about Trump. It's just not that. Sadhu Sangha is three things. And Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami explains these three. Can you see the screen? But I found a featured PowerPoint that you can do this. Pretty cool, huh? All right. Because I have only one slide, I need to be able to zoom in. These are three aspects of what Sadhu Sangha means. Sajatya, Snigdasya, and Vara. Sajatya is like-mindedness. By the way, don't feel compelled to take pictures because I have printouts for everyone. Yeah, and it's with Kevala Bhakti Prabhu. If you're going to come in the afternoon, we'll give you the printouts then because we have an exercise related to it. If you're not going to come in the afternoon, make sure you take a copy from him. So what I was saying, yeah. So these three aspects of Sadhu Sangha. Rupa Goswami explains it. Vishnu Chakri Thakur in his Madhurya Kadamini also explains. This is what Sadhu Sangha is, where you're interacting with Snigdasya, affectionate devotees. Is so important, isn't it? Affection. Doubts on the path of spirituality is very common. Affection can wash away those doubts. Experiencing ultimately affection from Krishna, but affection from the pure devotees of Krishna, or those who are really advanced devotees of Krishna, that affection can wash away those doubts. It can eclipse those doubts. That's the power of affection. So sometimes when we don't have an affectionate sangha that we're part of, affectionate circle that we're part of, it becomes very, very hard to practice Krishna consciousness. Especially if our shraddha, if our faith is not based on scripture, it's easy to retract, like I gave the example. So affection, snigdhasya. The second, like-mindedness, sajatya. What does like-mindedness mean? Like-mindedness doesn't mean like we both like cricket or we both like, tennis or something like that. Like-mindedness is the two aspects to it. One is that there's like-mindedness of sincerity. I have the same or similar strong interest in progressing in spiritual life as this person that I'm associating with. The second aspect of like-mindedness is the psychophysical nature of how we like to engage in service. So some people like to engage in book distribution. And then sajatya for them is persons who do book distribution. Deity worship, college outreach, taking care of youth, your service of being a mother and finding other mothers. Right? I was talking to Anugrah Mataji, like she really connected with some other mothers, and that really made a difference for her, right? It really touched her heart. So when you have that sajatya association, it's very powerful. And the last is vara, the more realized devotees. So having someone who has realizations that can nourish my own bhakti, that is what I'm looking for. when we are associating with devotees, we want to extract this juice. Because everyone who has come to Krishna consciousness movement, pretty much everyone, has some stories to tell. And has realizations about life and about Krishna. And about the process of bhakti. And so, it doesn't matter if we are, 20 years more senior than another person, but the younger person has these special jewels of wisdom and jewels of realization. And the art of sadhu sangha is how we extract that, how we take that out. So to be able to ask the right questions, to be able to affectionately express ourselves, to be able to vulnerably express ourselves. Which in that sadhu sangha makes sadhu sangha very nourishing. It is one thing to come and dance with a bunch of devotees during Sunday feasts. It's another thing to spend time, quality time, with two or three devotees, or even one devotee, where that where your heart feels satisfied. Wow, that was meaningful. That was really meaningful, and that you remember that for a long time. I can tell you, I still remember these exchanges I've had with devotees 25 years ago. They just stay with you, never go. You can easily forget that time you dance crazily in a kirtan. But those times of heart exchanges, that you will not lose. Those are precious moments. Okay. So we talked about Laukika or Shastriya Shraddha. So now, in Sadhu Sangha, what do we learn? One of the first things you learn in Sadhu Sangha is the glories of chanting. So this is where our Japa journey begins, right? So you can chant with me this verse as if you know it. Cheto darpanam marjanam bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam shreya kairava chandrika vitaranam vidya vadhu jivanam Anandamudi vardhanam pratipadam purnamrta swadanam sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Shri Krishna sankirtanam. So we hear from the devotees these glories of the holy name, that the holy name is, it cleanses the heart of all the dust. You might have miles and miles of dust. The Japa book says we have 30 kilometers, so you could say 20 miles of dust in our heart. Right? And it cleanses that. And that the fire of material existence subside. Padam padam yad vipadam natesham. At every step of our life, there is pain and suffering. My mother-in-law taught me this phrase in Hindi. I'm not a native Hindi speaker, but she taught me this, that Jisse na pucho wohi sukhi. Translated, whoever you don't ask, that person is happy. Meaning, whoever you ask, they're not happy. And it's so true. One of my services is life crisis and grief counseling. So you find, there's layers and layers of challenges that people are experiencing. Just touch the life of any one person and you'll see, they have this problem, they have that problem. Layers and layers and layers of challenges. Bhav mahadavagni nirvapanam. All of that, the devotees tell us, will subside. Okay, sign me up, right? Give me those beads. And it goes on, right? That's the 7 glories of the holy name. So we learn from the devotees these things. We learn from the devotees, you must chant 16 rounds. Okay, start with 4. Okay, start with 1. So there's like a negotiation going on between us and the devotees when we first start. I remember when I first started, devotees would tell me to chant. I was in a class one time. This was really interesting. I was sitting in a class, brand new to Krishna conscious Sangha, and I was listening to a sannyasi speak. So in the middle of the class, I don't know why, he just pointed to me. I don't know if I had like a target on my face or what. I don't even remember who that person is, frankly speaking. But he just pointed to me and said, you should chant. And, I was in this confused state. I didn't know how to respond. Being a young fellow in America, having a very rebellious attitude, in my mind, I thought, You chant, leave me alone. So there's a negotiation with devotees, how many rounds to chant, right? Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Bhagavat says, while counting the number, all of you chant this mantra I have given you. Everyone will achieve all perfection from this chanting. No other rules. Devotees tell us, no rules. You can chant, no problem, however you want. And this is interesting. This is actually quoted in Bhajan Rasya. It's actually in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. And I'm only sharing this because I find it interesting. I think you guys might too. Hari Bhakti Vilas gives some instruction of how to externally chant. So we get taught, you use the top beads. You don't chant on the top bead, you chant right next to it with your finger and thumb. Put your index finger through the bag and slowly roll your fingers and things like that. Here's what Hari Bhakti Vilas says. Please listen carefully. Japa beads made out of tulsi or precious stones, diamonds, fulfill all desires. Those made in the shape of a tail of a cow or serpent offer even more auspicious results. What? One should not touch the mala with the second finger, which is index finger. We taught that. Nor should one shake or swing his beads. Actually, Prabhupada told, don't keep shaking your beads and stuff like that. One should change the direction of beads on the thumb joint with the middle finger. One should never touch the beads with the left hand. Beads should not fall down from the hand. Those who are desirous of liberation, material enjoyment, advancement of knowledge, chant on the middle finger. So we get taught, right? That's how our journey begins. But devotees don't only teach us how to chant externally, which is what I just shared, but they also teach us how to chant internally. What's the mood? Correct? And so Hari Bhakti Vilas explains the mood as well. What is the mood to chant? Manasamharana shaucham maunim mantrartha chintanam avyagratya anirvedo japa sampati hetava. That this is the 6 ways of making your japa perfect. Number 1, manasamharana, like completely control the mind from all sides. Krishna uses a similar phrase in the 2nd chapter of Gita, that you control the mind from all sides. Manasamharana shaucham, being clean, externally and internally clean. Maunim, to be quiet. Oh gosh, this is a practice that I think if we do better at, we would have a more enriching experience with japa, where we're not talking when chanting. We really, before chanting, we prepare to chant. There's a preparation, and so we're not talking. We chant our japa, whatever time we've allocated, the time management that we have, and then after japa, to integrate the experience, to not immediately begin talking. This maunam is actually very, very important. Of course, how we live our lives and only talking about Krishna consciousness, not doing prajalpa, not doing frivolous talk, those are all helpful. But I've noticed anyway, this mauna before, during and after japa, which includes checking text messages. Because that's talking. Think about it, it's like listening to someone speak when you're reading a message, right? So, anyway, so maunim mantrartha chintanam, to meditate on the meaning of the mantra. Avyagratva anirveda. Avyagratva means steadiness, anirveda is to have patience. So these are 6 things. Sanatana Goswami says, if you do them nicely, japa sampati hetava. It's the root or it's the cause for perfection in chanting. These 6 things. So now let's take a moment, this sadhu sangha piece. Turn to the person next to you, or find a person close to you, and answer this question. How did your japa journey start? And I'll tell you a little secret. There's some questions that came earlier, like, I feel stuck, how do I move forward? Vishwanath Chakri Thakur explains, if you know how you started, you'll know how to progress. if you know how you started Japa, and with the gratitude of how that happened for you, you'll know how to progress. So for me, it started by hearing from my spiritual master. I told you, devotees would tell me to chant and I was getting rebellious. But hearing from my spiritual master, who was not intrusive, who didn't try to force me to chant or anything like that, he just spoke of the glories of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, like I was just sharing. And I went to the devotees later, said, please give me beads. I went to the devotees because of being drawn and attracted by that. That's how it started for me. So I know now what is it that's going to help me is to very sincerely hear from my spiritual master. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that if you know what got you started, that very thing will help you go forward further. So yeah, turn to the next person next to you and get to know about each other. What made you start chanting? You have 3 minutes. You have a minute left. Hare Krishna. Sorry if you didn't get to finish, but maybe during lunch we can talk more about it. Was it fun learning about your peers or how we get started? All right, so now we're going to move to the next stage, which is Bhajana Kriya. We're now inspired to chant. Okay, so you can see on the screen we're in the next stage. We've learned about Shikshashtakam 1. Now we start to develop an internal purpose. Internal purpose of what? Internal purpose of, maybe becoming close to God is what's important. I remember when I was a young spanking graduate from college, my internal purpose was to become a CEO in 5 years. And fortunately that's changed. So we start to develop an internal purpose that's different than our materialist friends that we've grown up with. And we start to, it feels weird hanging out with those friends that we've had. It feels weird hanging out with the family members even. My spiritual man explained that it's like taking off on a plane. Things that seem so significant and big and large, these buildings, as you're taking off in the plane, become more and more insignificant, less significant. Not that they're not important or we should not pay attention. Pay attention. But you realize that the value system starts to diverge. We start to gain a different value system, isn't it? As you start taking up the Krishna conscious process, people think you've gone mad. How many times you've heard that? You're fanatical. So I just start my message with friends or family like, I am fanatical, now let's talk. So you start to, what's happening, socially that's what's happening. There's some dissonance starting to grow, there's some break in value system, or divergence of value system. But what's actually happening is an internal purpose is starting to be developed. An internal purpose is that my life is actually meant for God. It's not about me anymore. We may not be there, but it starts to develop. We're starting to get a seed. That seed is a seed that Jiva Goswami explains is known as mati. It's this inclination, I want to please Krishna. That's a seed of bhakti. So, now we're practicing Krishna consciousness, we're practicing Japa, we try to bring the mind back. We have a crazy mind, right? Chanting Japa. Sometimes when we first start chanting, I've known some people to say, oh, I'm very good, I'm happy, I'm very advanced now. It's known as PDS. When you first start chanting, it's known as pure devotee syndrome. That I'm very advanced, very detached. If you all will indulge me a little bit, I did that. I was a little cuckoo, more fanatical than fanatical. We said, okay, we're going to be very simple devotees. We took out all the curtains in our house, threw away all the china we got at our wedding, and we're just fanatical. That's a little too much. Pure devotee syndrome. But once we get through the pure devotee syndrome, now we start bringing the mind back. Like, okay, wow, my mind is a little cuckoo. Let me just try to bring the mind back. We start to practice detachment. Hopefully in a healthy way, not what I did. And here's the most important part in Bhajana Kriya. We start to get glimpses of strength, peace, and Krishna. Bhurijan Prabhu in his Japa book explains 2 years into chanting, he suddenly had this shocking experience of hearing the Krishna mantra as powerful and as sweet. It's like, wow. We talked about this a little earlier. I remember also having something similar. We were living in St. Louis and we had a townhome. I remember very distinctly walking around the townhome basement and suddenly, I don't know how many months I had been chanting by then, but suddenly I was like, oh my God, this is God's name. Prior to that, it was just, mechanical. But this is God's name. You get this glimpse of Krishna. Or you get a glimpse of peace. You suddenly feel like, often when we lead meditation sessions with college students, they say, oh, I felt so peaceful. That was really nice. Or you'll get a glimpse of strength. Again, I'll share my example. I wanted to become a vegetarian. I valued being a vegetarian. I couldn't do it. It lasted 24 hours in college and that was it. When I started chanting Japa, I felt an inner strength. And within 2 weeks, I never looked back. So people start getting these experiences with chanting. You get glimpses of strength, you get glimpses of peace, you get glimpses of Krishna. These are things that help us keep going. Because in the beginning stages, absolutely our mind is nowhere near the holy name. But we get these little tastes by the mercy of the holy name. It's like you see a little kid playing around. Krishna sees a little kid trying to chant, and he gives a little help. So we might help a little kid, who's playing around like that. So, we've started chanting. Now what's next? we recognize, as we start chanting, we recognize that I have no taste. It's this huge obstacle, right? This barrier that I am becoming aware of. I have no taste. What is a symptom that I have no taste? A symptom that I have no taste, first of all, when chanting is going on, it's really dry. But here's another symptom, that when I finish my rounds, whatever I've committed to, be it 2 rounds, 4 rounds, 8 rounds, 16 rounds, I finish my rounds, there's a beautiful, sweet sense of relief. One time Prabhupada was chanting Japa, and his devotee was right next to him, his disciple. So he did this. He wanted to show, how we have this mentality. So he chanted his Japa, got to 16 rounds, pulled the last bead, threw his bead back down. He said, now I can do any damn thing I want. Mocking us that we don't have taste. It's a symptom of having no taste. Why do we have no taste? So this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, so the Shikshashtakam, so Bhajan Rahasya, by the way, the book talks about the stages of bhakti through the Shikshashtakam verses. We're only going to get to Shikshashtakam 3, which is Trinadapi Sunichena. So many of you know that verse. This is the second verse, which says, Nam namakari bahuda nija sarva shaktish tatrarpita niyamata smaranena kala etadashi tava kripa bhagavan mamapi durdevamidishami hajani na anuragaha. I have no taste. Mahaprabhu is saying, I have no taste. He's actually feeling it in the 20th chapter of the Anta Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita. He's feeling it. He's actually saying, I have no taste. Krishna's name is so powerful, so beautiful. Any number of names I can chant. All of those names are so filled with rasa. But I'm so durdevam. Deva means fortune. Durdevam, so unfortunate. I have no taste. Why do I have no taste? Why? Do you like that picture of the little glass? So, why do I have no taste? Bhaktivinoda Thakur does the anatomy of no taste. In his Bhajan Rahasya, Bhaktivinoda Thakur he quotes the Amnaya Sutra. He says there are 4 reasons we don't have taste, and I've listed them here. We'll go through each one of them. And each of the 4 have subdivisions of 4. It's a little technical, but anyway, to understand. Tattva Vibhrama, the first one. Tattva Vibhrama means lack of understanding. Brahma means mistaken. Vibhrama means totally mistaken. Tattva Vibhrama means that I don't understand tattva, I don't understand reality. I don't understand 4 things. What are those 4 things? I don't understand who I am, and by extension I don't understand who others are. 2, I don't understand who God is. I don't understand who Krishna is. 3, I don't understand sadhya and sadhana. I don't understand the process of bhakti well. And I don't understand the goal of bhakti well. And the 4th, I don't understand what is good for me, and I don't understand what is not good for me. So that's the first reason we don't have taste. Tattva Vibhrama. That is why it is said that Haridas Thakur explains, it is very important to hear and hear and hear and hear and hear about Krishna Katha. To understand all of these intricacies. Who am I? We have this, even after hearing sometimes, we have this misconception that I am to be in the center. That my life is important. Everything about my feelings is important. My mind is important. How I process situations. How I see the other person. That's important. When in reality it's not. Our minds are weak and, what's the word? flickering, they're monkey-like. They have certain conceptions, there will be certain ways of looking at the world that may not be true. One of the most powerful statements in this book, as you can see, it's a marketing for this book. One of the most powerful statements in this book, please listen. We are eternal servants of Krishna. Missing out on this intrinsic relationship, we suffer existential emptiness. Existential emptiness. We are incurably lonely. We're not just lonely, incurably lonely. But wait, I have friends, I have family, I have spouses. There's a Krishna-shaped hole in our hearts. That hole cannot be filled by anyone except God, except Krishna. That sense of loneliness, even if we have a good relationship with one spouse, they may not know us fully and understand us fully and accept us fully. So there's an estrangement, there's a loneliness that we carry. And that loneliness makes us do all kinds of crazy things sometimes. So much so in Britain they have a loneliness minister. Have you heard? In the US they're trying to maybe come up with a loneliness minister. But in Britain they actually have a loneliness minister. I don't know what he's going to do unless he teaches them to chant Hare Krishna. We're existentially empty and incurably lonely. This is one of the most powerful phrases I found in the Japa book. We don't understand that we are in that condition. We don't understand Krishna's might, etc. So the next reason that we don't have taste is asat trishna. We're attracted to the temporary. We're attracted to asat, things that are flickering. They're here today, gone tomorrow. The first one is material comforts, such as nice bedding, wonderful temperature. I came from Chicago. I've just been enjoying the Phoenix weather. Oh my God, you guys, you've had it good in this winter time. And you guys come up to Chicago in the summer. Right? The weather is something that's we hanker after. How the temperature is working right. We have to have right air conditioner, whatever. That's all material comforts. Having the right bank balance is part of our material comforts. Not being criticized by others is a material comfort. Not having tension in relationships and therefore being a people pleaser. How many of us have a problem saying no to others? We have a problem saying no, yeah? What is that? It's just wanting to be comfortable. Let there be not any stress in the relationship. So what happens as a result? We create more resentment within when we are unable to say no. And with that resentment is more problems for ourselves and for our relationships we're in. Material comfort. Asat trishna. Second one, heavenly pleasures. Nice food. Sexual delights. Fancy homes and cars. Enchanting vacations. These are all parts of heavenly pleasures that are subset of asat trishna, the second one here. Then mystic powers. Mystic powers means you think of like being able to control the world around us. Sometimes we want to control our friends, we want to control our spouses, we want to control the government. So that's all wanting to have mystic powers. And then the last of this asat trishna is wanting liberation, moksha. So the third one here of why there's no taste, which is probably one of the most important ones, is weakness of heart. Weakness of heart is hridaya dorbalyam, meaning the heart doesn't have strength. Arjuna tells this to Krishna in the 3rd chapter of the Gita. He says, Krishna, I know what I should do, but I can't do it. I know what I should not do, but I still do it. We struggle with this, isn't it? And Arjuna is asking a very important question to Krishna, and then Krishna answers him why it happens. That issue of not being able to do what we know we should do, or doing what we should not be doing, is called Hridaya Dorbalyam. And it has 4 different categories. Number 1 is Tuchha Shakti, Tuchha Asakti, attachment to things that are not helpful for us at all. Insignificant, they're not related to Krishna consciousness. Most persons, not everyone, most persons have some kind of secret bad habit. Maybe 2 or 10. Most persons have some secret bad habit that we won't tell the devotees. Which, by the way, is good to be vulnerable and share. But we all have it. And that's Tuchha Sakti. It's part of the weakness of heart. The second is Kutinati, deceitfulness. We say something and do something else. Jiva Goswami explains Kutinati as where you externally show respect but internally don't have respect. That's deceitfulness. And it leads to aparad. I must respect devotees, so externally I'll respect them, but internally I'm like, wow, that person. That's Kutinati. And then fault finding or envy. So Kutinati then leads to fault finding, which then leads to aparad, which then leads to slackening of our devotional practice. And then the worst of the 4 that Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Sanatana Goswami say is the most difficult to address: a desire for fame. Swapratishtita. For fame. Swapratishtita. I am to be honored and respected. That one, Sanatana Goswami says, this is stool, don't touch it. Literally, he says, this is stool, don't touch it. It's the root of all problems of life. What's the root of that? According to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says that the root of desire for fame is from asat sangha, associating with materialistic people. So we have to be careful how we associate. Doesn't mean we don't go to work or go to school or things like that, but we don't give our hearts to. We don't have these very confidential exchanges with persons who don't have a spiritual purpose like that. In fact, in the Bhaktivinoda Thakur quotes the Vishnu Rasa, he says that I prefer to embrace a tiger, an alligator, or a snake than to associate with materialists. Wow. By the way, the number 1 materialist is considered to be one's own mind. And then the last one here is offenses. Why we have no taste. There's a full analysis given by Jiva Goswami and Bhakti Sandarbha explaining how offenses come to be. And there are again 4 ways to offend. They're offending Krishna in the deity form, offending the holy name, offending the devotees, or offending living entities in general. What happens when we offend someone, like when we purposefully want to bring them down, is that the heart contracts. You notice, you feel it. Your heart becomes... I'll share an experience with you. Last year, again, we were in Haridwar, Rishikesh. So I have a little problem with... I had a little problem with some aspects of the Indian culture, such as chalega. It'll just work out. I like to call it the bubblegum and toothpick culture. That's, you'll see things just hanging around, electrical wires, just somehow, I have no idea how electricity is distributed across the country, but it is. Because, things are just chalega, they're not done properly generally. And then the second was sometimes you'll stand in line and there is no line. Like 10 people come ahead of you. And, at one point in time, I just tried to tell people, stop, I'm in line. But then I've learned now to either shut up and just be patient, or, as in Rome, do as the Romans do. So if someone comes in front of me, I cut in front of them. My mother says when I start driving in India, you become just like them. So I started speaking like this in the bus where we were all traveling for Yatra in Haridwar and Rishikesh. And I observed my heart contracting. Krishna taught me a lesson. My shoe broke, my shoe tore or broke, and then I went to a shopkeeper and I requested, can I get slippers? And then he showed me my shoe size and all that. We talked a little bit and he said the price is 250 rupees. Okay, fine, whatever. For us it's fortunately not a big deal, whatever it is. I didn't bargain with him. He came down, we were upstairs in that shop and we came down and then he said, we had a pleasant exchange and then he said, take 220 rupees. I said, no, take 250. He said, no, 220. I was blown away. It's like, I've never seen a shopkeeper do that in the western part of the world that I like so much. Then that same day or the next day, I went to a pharmacy to get some medicine. And the pharmacy, it was like, 100 and something rupees. And I gave 150 rupees, 110 rupees, 120 rupees, something like that. I gave 150 rupees. I don't exactly remember the number. And I said, you keep the change. The pharmacist says no. He folded his hands. He says, I want to live honestly. Take 30 rupees back. The very culture that I was blown away. Every place has its positives and negatives. So that contraction of heart, Krishna taught me a lesson, don't criticize people. It's not helpful. Jai Shishi Radha Madhav Hari Ki Jai. So, offending devotees, offending any living, in this case it was any living entities, regional jivas, offending devotees, offending the holy name, offending Krishna, is something we have to be very careful of. Okay, I know we're at time, and we will continue this journey map. I will quickly share with you what's to come. Okay, so this is pretty bleak, isn't it? Don't worry, it gets even more bleak. So, we're talking about no taste. The next stage is, okay, I have no taste. I recognize all these things. Lack of understanding, thirst for the temporary, material attachments, weakness of heart, offenses. I'm going to work on it. So we'll move into a very active stage of anartha nivritti, of removing, trying to work on these things in our heart. What happens? We'll talk through all of it. Then we'll talk about the experience of a desert. Not desert. It's a different thing, desert. And then we'll talk about then finally getting to Nishtha, the stage of Nishtha. So this will go through the journey map. So we ended here. So we have three more things to go through. What I would like, if you don't mind, if you can humor me, take some time now to journal these 4 things of no taste. And I gave 4 sub parts of each of those 4. Of course, you don't have to be so analytical about it, but journal why, in your case, if you have no taste, assuming you have no taste, if you have no taste or lack of taste or paucity of taste, that what is it that prevents you? Because remember, each river is different. Each river has its own unique obstacle, or unique set of obstacles. What is it for you? So you can type it on your phone, or if you have a book, you can write it. Take a couple of minutes to contemplate this question. What is it, according to this anatomy given by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, what is it that prevents you from having taste? Okay? And with that, we'll pause and pick back up at what time? 2:15. 2:15. So again, just a reminder, if you're not going to be here for the afternoon session, please make sure to take a copy of this Japa Journey Map, and it's a 2-sided thing. On the back side, there's an exercise for you to do, just in general. Okay. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai.